All right. Welcome back to chapter 10, where we're talking about more rotational motion. We've already done rotational kinematics. We've already done rotational forces. Now we're going to talk about rotational energy and the moment of inertia. It's weird to say it's a moment of inertia because it's not really a moment, is it? It's really just what potential an object has to rotate and to turn, the tendency of an object to spin forever and ever and ever. So let's do an example problem. A thinned wall cylinder of mass mh and radius rh and a solid cylinder of mass ms and radius rs start at rest at a top of an incline. Oops. So I have an incline, bloop. I have a solid cylinder and a hollow cylinder. Okay, fabulous. And they roll down a hill. Ignoring friction and non-conservative effects, determine the translational speed. So I could sit here and try to think about how I can do kinematics equations because I see the word speed, but that's there to trick you. Because I'm at a height and at the end I'm going to be going a certain speed, I know that this is actually energy related. This is a conservation of energy problem. So let's just give this a scooch. All my initial energy is going to equal all of my final energy. Let's just get rid of this excellent doodle. So at the beginning, I can have all sorts of things. I can have potential energy. And this is gravitational. I love it when it does that. This is gravitational. And honestly, that's it. I could have translational kinetic energy, and I could have rotational kinetic energy, but I don't. They're sitting still at the top of this hill, at this incline. Afterwards, they are spinning down the hill, so I have kinetic energy rotational. They're rolling down the hill. And then I also have translational kinetic energy. And assuming they're at the bottom of the hill, and that's where my height ends, I no longer have potential energy. So now we just have to put these in equations. Potential energy gravitational is mass times gravity times height. And kinetic energy is rotational is going to be 1/2 I omega squared plus 1/2 m v squared. What I need to do here is it says determine the translational speed of each cylinder. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Since it said translational, I'm going to convert all of my rotational stuff into translational. So here, 1/2 I. Remember, omega is equal to v over r. Ooh, let's keep all of our r's lowercase, shall we? Squared. Plus 1/2 mv squared. What r is this specifically? That's the radius of my cylinder. So we still have mgh here. Okay, I need to solve for v. And this is going to get a little wild, but that's all right. Notice I have these halves in common. In order to get rid of that, I'm going to multiply everything by 2. So 2 mgh equals, now we have I v squared over r squared plus m v squared. So you have 2 v squares. That means I can take out a v square. The greatest common factor. But with letters, I'm left with I over r squared plus m. I know that doesn't look awesome, and we're not going to make it look any more awesome, because this is like doing v squared times this number over here, whatever that number may be. So in order to get rid of that, I need to divide both sides. So now I have 2 mgh all over I over r squared plus m. And this equals v squared. I'm not done. I still got to take the square root. So let's make this look nice. Square root of 2 mgh over I over r squared plus m equals v. Now what I can do, now that I have a solid equation for v, I can find the v of the hollow cylinder and v of the solid cylinder, because each of those have different inertias. So inertia for the hollow cylinder is equal to mr squared. So I'm just going to make that change here. So it says the square root of 2mgh over mr squared over r squared plus m. Crazy stuff happens. See these r squares? They cancel. See how I have two m's on the bottom and I have two m's up there? Those cancel. All that work just to find the square root of gravity times height. Ain't that how it goes sometimes? Gravity here is 9.8 because it's on Earth, which is convenient, times 1.5. Square root of that, math would determine that that is approximately 3.83 meters per second. Neat. Now let's do the same thing, just going to scooch this down a little bit, for the solid sphere. The inertia for the solid sphere is 1/2 mr squared. So we're going to make the same determination. Square root of 2mgh from the original equation. Instead of I, now we have mr squared all over r squared, but then with a 2 here. Plus m. Now because of that 2, it kind of messes a bunch of stuff up. Because of that 2, these r squares still cancel. So I have a half plus a whole, which gives me 1.5. 1.5 over 2. Because of this 2 up here, we've got 4gh over 3. And that ends up, after I put in the 9.8 and the 1.5, that gives me 4.43 meters per second squared. Meters per second. I don't know why I said squared. That's incorrect. Because these are speeds. Ta-da! It looks like a lot. And I honestly blew through that explanation. So, bottom line here, what does this mean? Determine the translational speed of each cylinder. We did that. So, if you think about it, the hollow one isn't going nearly as fast, according to our calculations. Neat. This pretty much sums it all up of the conservation of energy, and we're dealing with rotational and translational now at the same time. This is probably the most work you'll do for a problem like this, but it's definitely manageable. The craziest part is when you got all this going on the inside. That's the point of writing out these variables and simplifying it. It looks bad, but honestly, you ended up only multiplying 2 things and taking the square root when you were all said and done. So the math part, not so bad. The letters, the algebra, that can get a little dicey.